Hi, everyone. So next up, we have Zaki from Cosmos going to come give us an update on the latest workings of the Cosmos ecosystem and IBC protocol.
Yep. Hey, everyone. So I'm Zaki from Cosmos. Just give you guys a bit of an update. So we sort of start with, I'm going to just sort of take you guys through a little bit of an overview of sort of the high order bits of what's going on in the Cosmos ecosystem in 2020. So probably the coolest thing that's happening is after, almost 3 years of talking about, for me, 4 years of talking about IBC, IBC is to a large extent a real thing now. So what we have right now is a very cool, probably, as far as I know, the first multi-chain block explorer that exists, or the first IBC network explorer running on the Game of Zones network. So Game of Zones is incentivized testnet. It's our follow-up to Game of Stakes, which was the first incentivized testnet. It's put together by a small team of me, Jack, and Jesse. Kind of the core team behind the original Game of Stakes testnet, and we've been doing Game of Zones very much in the spirit of what we learned from Game of Stakes, which is that an incentivized testnet is an incredibly powerful way of both stress testing and educating a group of people about your protocol. Things that are really cool is like many millions of IBC packets have been sent over the course of Game of Stakes or Game of Zones. We've announced winners from phase 1. Phase 2 had completed last week, and phase 3 is going on right now. And so I like I said, the big high order bit is that IBC, the Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol that was sort of described initially in the Cosmos white paper, is now a fully both completed specification and implementation, is running with hundreds of participants right now. And we've really seen an internet of blockchains take shape in Game of Zones. So it's probably the coolest bit, and it's like the thing that I've been working hardest on for the last few weeks. But probably the other thing that is probably very much on people's minds about Cosmos is that, I would say a bit of the sort of somewhat unanticipated sort of rapid decentralization of the Cosmos ecosystem sort of took place in the first half of this year. And in many ways, it was very painful. The timing of it was awkward, in the midst of a pandemic and all of these things, to sort of redo the entire organizational structure of the ecosystem. So if you sort of wind back to the beginning of 2019 and the launch of the Cosmos Hub network, essentially everyone who worked on Cosmos was an employee of a company called All in Bits. All in Bits was a US company founded by Ethan and Jay, and developed an original Tendermint software, et cetera. Over the course, we successfully launched the network in 2019. The Cosmos Hub sort of grew into this decentralized system. We did the first decentralized launch of a proof of stake network, et cetera. What had become clear to me over the course of 2019 was that as we decentralized, the sort of notion of everybody working under a single centralized company was becoming increasingly untenable and sort of honestly didn't make any sense anymore. And so, we had, many of you are aware of sort of some of the conflicts between people in the system. But at the end of the day, what we've ended up with is actually, I think, a pretty nice organizational structure. It certainly seems to be working. So we have our friends at Agoric who were invaluable at taking some of the original ideas of IBC and turning them into a powerful, flexible protocol that does far more than token transfers, as I think we're going to start seeing in Game of Zones. We have Band Protocol launching shortly, a Cosmos zone that's focused on oracles, etc. We have Interchain Berlin, which currently contains both the sort of core IBC team and the core Tendermint Go team. We have a company called Informal that is led by Ethan in Canada that sort of spun out of the Interchain Foundation and is now focused on Tendermint and IBC and Rust. And mostly like innovating around how do you build formally verified distributed systems. One of the big accomplishments of the Cosmos ecosystem over the last couple of years has been, building a robust general purpose BFT engine. Like we are a much smaller and less well-resourced team than, let's say, other entities like Libra that have tried to sort of follow in our footsteps. Yet we were able to build something that, I think some number around $3.5 billion of value lives on top of Tendermint networks today. So that was a major accomplishment. We have the region. We also have, so All in Bits has sort of refocused itself on design and marketing and DevRels and some application layer stuff on top of Cosmos. And then, again, another new participant that isn't as well known in the ecosystem, but there's a protocol called Regen Network that is focused on building coordination systems for environmental sustainability. But they have taken over much of the work on the sort of core Cosmos SDK framework and have continued development. And then I run a company called, or have 4 co-founders. We collectively run a company called Occlusion that was originally like sort of one of the early validator companies, but we never really got into the validator as a service business. But we have sort of been taking over the stewardship of the software that runs the core Cosmos network, and have run Game of Zones for the community. And we're working on other things, including open source HSMs, privacy technologies, et cetera. And in general, new entities join the Cosmos ecosystem on a regular basis. People who are building on top of Tendermint on an ongoing basis. And what I'm most proud of over the course of this transition to this multi-entity structure is that we seem to have started to figure out how do you develop software, onboard people, recruit, grow, manage resources in a world where there are an ever-expanding set of entities. There's like a bi-weekly call where there's like people representing almost a dozen different entities, validators, et cetera, who all are sort of collectively building and destroying the Cosmos ecosystem. We're still figuring out very many things. One of the things that worries me the most is that there are numerous studies that say organizational structure is inversely correlated with software quality, which is a problem that I think every blockchain protocol that launches is eventually going to have to face. And learning how to build high quality software in a world where you have a complex, flat organizational structure remains an ongoing challenge and is a thing that we have to figure out. But in general, Cosmos ecosystem is pretty healthy. There's another thing that I'm pretty excited about in the Cosmos world is that, so just tabbed over to the Cosmos Hub Block Explorer, and we have a project called CosmWasm, which is now the first project to be funded by the on-chain treasury to do development intended for integration into the Cosmos Hub of something that was never in the Cosmos white paper, not produced by any of the companies that I just listed. So Ethan Fry, who and the rest of the team at Confio, they weren't, they Ethan was actually one of the original authors of the Cosmos SDK, but then went to work on another ecosystem chain called IOV, and is the Internet of Value, and is eventually took some of that work, took a hackathon project from last summer that I did help out on a little bit, but my contribution was very small, to integrate WebAssembly smart contracts into the Cosmos SDK. He's taken that, he's gotten additional users outside of the Cosmos Hub, and then took the first governance proposal of the Cosmos Hub saying, this piece of infrastructure will provide atoms and atom holders new value propositions. If you fund me, I will take this product that I have, do the integrations for the Cosmos SDK, and then we'll be able to actually launch it on the Cosmos SDK, on the Cosmos Hub. So that's also very exciting to me. So you can go to cosmwasm.com and learn more about this fantastic new integration with the Cosmos SDK. I think the general theme of people spinning up, building zones, developing new things, and sort of bringing them back to the core protocol continues apace. What are other things that are fairly exciting in the Cosmos ecosystem? So I'll just this isn't really my data, but I believe Ethan publicly demonstrated it, that the Interchain Foundation, which originally did the Cosmos fundraiser, continues to have a fairly healthy endowment, almost 90 million Swiss francs, and the much of which is sort of about a third of which is sort of out of the volatility of the crypto, is not exposed to the volatility of the crypto space. We also have a very large number of 125 validators. The validator set has been fairly dynamic. We have people like the Zero Knowledge Validator and the Multi-Chain Ventures Validator that have gotten into the top 10 in the year since the Cosmos Hub launched, and that's been really heartening to see. New community members join, and the ongoing growth there. Probably the thing that I am most excited about coming up is what we are calling the Stargate upgrade. It's planned for summer 2020. So what does the Stargate upgrade sort of entail? So the downside of the Stargate upgrade is for basically everyone who integrates with the Cosmos Hub, we are probably going to be, we are to a certain extent going to be making breaking changes across many interfaces. And it's going to be a fairly intense process to get all of the 40-something exchanges and wallets and all that support Cosmos all ready for the Stargate upgrade. But there's a bunch of things that I think people will find very appealing about the Stargate upgrade. We'll get 10 to 100x TPS improvement on running some of this software on Game of Zones. We've been seeing transaction throughputs in the several hundred TPS range, which has been really good. And there are still some bottlenecks to be sorted out, but it's been heartening to see. We will have 0 downtime upgrades that were originally developed on Region's Cosmos Zone, brought to the Cosmos Hub. Tendermint will be able to instantly sync to any blockchain. That's a new feature that will go out to all Tendermint users, and we will have block and state pruning so that full nodes do not have to store hundreds of gigabytes of block data, and instead we'll have a fairly a way of sort of having a steady state Cosmos full node that consumes fewer resources. I expect Tendermint to still be fairly chatty on terms of how much network resources it takes up. Those are kind of the sort of high order bits of what's going on inside of Cosmos right now. So I'd be happy to take questions.
Hey, Zachy, that was fantastic. Little drink from the fire hose there to get an update on everything that's been going on in Cosmos. There's a lot going on. I think right off the bat, one of my questions is, what was the inspiration going in, like wanting to do an adversarial testnet stakes and doing the Game of Zones? Like, where did you kind of derive that from, and how did that shape your design for it?
So we wanted to do a number of things with the Cosmos Hub launch that were sort of over and above what sort of maybe might have been MVP. And we see a lot of networks taking this like MVP approach to mainnet, where you launch like a proof of authority network, and then you turn that proof of authority network into a more decentralized network over time, over months or years. And a big part of what we wanted to accomplish with Cosmos is show that a proof of stake network could be decentralized from like sort of zero, from the first block. And the main sort of thing. So what did that need? It needed me to know, and like sort of the Cosmos team to have confidence that there was a group of people who knew enough about how all of the software worked to actually fix it if it broke. And that was the point of the incentivized testnet, was to kind of create an environment where things were no longer operating as smoothly as they were on the Cosmos Hub or in our previous year of testnets, to be like, okay, we can handle it. And I think the payoff for Game of Stakes really came last fall, when we actually had the first attempt to upgrade from Cosmos Hub 2 to Cosmos Hub 3 actually aborted because there was a bug in the upgrade process. And the network actually had to be restarted. And no one had ever done this before. No one actually really knew how to upgrade the network or how to restart a halted Cosmos chain. But within a matter of 2 or 3 hours, the validator set was able to like sort of rally, figure out how to bring everything back online, and the network restarted and then was stable for a couple more months, and then we succeeded in the upgrade. And so that was really the real thing that was sort of key to me of why we did Game of Stakes and what the payoff was. The payoff was that we survived a failed upgrade. And the reason why we wanted to do it is because we wanted to decentralize early, and that meant resilient. That like we had to like believe that we could come back from failure, because failure is inevitable.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of these things sound great in theory, but as soon as you throw them into practice, it's completely different. So a little bit of trial by fire.
I actually see this like interesting question about like, how do you think of the lead of Cosmos compared to Polkadot and other projects? And I think that's an interesting question that I probably want to like. So the extent to which I believe we have a lead is that the social process is as hard as the technical process, if not harder. Like, how do you actually decentralize an ecosystem? How do you actually have multiple teams working on software? What do you do as you get towards like kind of the end of what was described in the white paper? And there's, and then how do you come to consensus on what to build and what to do next? And I think that's probably the biggest lead that Cosmos has, is that these social processes have been through trial by fire. These social processes have been through trial by fire, numerous crises, and yet we are soldiering on, continuing to do extremely high quality work, and we've sort of found our way through a bunch of this and are kind of sort of pivoting from strength to strength now. So I think that is the lead, because I think everybody else has to go through the same problems that we have. And for better or worse, we've gotten to go through them over this last year.
Oh, that's great insight. Actually, kind of like building off of that, I really liked how you kind of talked about how kind of difficult it is to coordinate with many different teams.
It's weirdly a night. It's both good and like there's like good and bad to it. Like, I have much more time to be like an individual software engineer now rather than like managing a team. Because the team that I formally work with is small. We're 4 people and some contractors. But there's this vast ecosystem, and yes, there are a lot of calls that I go to. But like I said, we continue. Like it's going surprisingly well.
I was wondering, So when you kind of see that kind of tough, difficult to coordination, like that's one of the problems I kind of see with Ethereum governance is trying to get all those different minds together and coordinate those thoughts. And you kind of see how Cosmos has like its on-chain governance system. How does that kind of help that instance in a way?
Well, I think it was helpful. Like I said, I think the CosmWasm stuff is the first sort of ray of hope or progress on the Cosmos Hub starting to be able to make through governance like a sort of a little bit tough decision or like novel decision, and not doing something that was like bureaucratic and obvious. Like most of Cosmos, so up until now, most Cosmos Hub governance debates have been like have been about like formalism, like how should an upgrade be done? You know, what are the expectations? How do we ensure that like there is consent of all the parties before we make protocol changes, etc. I think we're starting to get into this phase where the Cosmos Hub is going to be called on to make much more of like policy decisions. And there's both sort of practical operational decisions about there's certain states in IBC protocols. If, for instance, an IBC protocol expires or a chain that you're connected to with IBC forks, like what to do is very much going to have to be handled with governance. But also just sort of these policy decisions about what to fund, what to incorporate into various projects, et cetera. I think there's a pretty strong or there's a need for governance to get involved there. I think, you know, the idea of, I also expect there are going to be intractable disputes in the future of Cosmos that will lead to forks that will hopefully be connected over IBC.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I love it. So that's all the time we have. Where can everyone here learn more about Cosmos and keep in touch with you?
Cosmos.network continues to be a good place. At ZMoney on Twitter is a good place to find me on the internet. I'm in like all the Cosmos Telegram channels as well. So, just come hang out.
Love it. I could keep going. I have plenty of other questions, but unfortunately out of time.
Thanks, Wilson.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk soon. Take care. Thanks for joining us.